Premier, quote, an unapologetic MAGA-aligned Conservative. Today seems like we're talking to Team Trump even more. Why is the Premier threatening a national unity crisis and encouraging separatism? Mr. Speaker, the New York Times recently sat down with the Premier for an exclusive interview. They call the Premier, quote, an unapologetic MAGA-aligned Conservative, end quote. Whoa. And they describe her as, quote, the closest thing Canada's Conservative movement has to a MAGA ally, and has the Mar-a-Lago photograph with Trump to prove it, end quote. Some of the answers we've heard here today seems like we're talking to Team Trump even more. Yeah. Does the Premier believe being portrayed as a MAGA supporter in the United States is a good thing for Alberta and Canada?
Yeah.
The Honourable the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad we've got friends from the United States of America. In fact, some of those friends, Illinois, that is the largest trading partner that Alberta has with the state. Ohio, I mentioned to the state representative there that there are some Ohio refineries that get 100% of their oil from the heavy crude that we offer from Alberta. These are messages that our friends in America need to hear. We need to have a Fortress North America approach where we know that we can support the Americans in their aspiration for energy dominance. We'll be able to play a key role in that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Albertans reject these MAGA alliances. Now, the New York Times seems to have gotten a good handle on our Premier. They write, quote, she has courted ideological minorities, including fervent anti-vaccine organizations, advocates for Alberta successionism, and hardline anti-trans activists to secure her election, end quote. They continue saying the Premier, quote, has sought to use the question of Alberta's relationship with the rest of Canada to her political advantage, end quote. Why is the Premier threatening a national unity crisis and encouraging separatism in some sort of
the Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The members opposite well know that we've had an office in Washington since 2005. We've continued the expansion of those offices, and we continue to have exchanges like the one we have today so that we can build those relationships on both sides of the aisle. We've got Republican representatives here today. We've got Democrat representatives here today because we think it's important that no matter who is in the White House, no matter who is elected to office at the federal level or the state level, that they understand the Alberta story. They understand that Alberta is a strong partner and ally in their aspirations, and I'm going to continue to tell them that message, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, most alarming is this line in the Premier's New York Times article. It says, quote, but the policy area where her alignment with Mr. Trump's movement is most pronounced is probably health, end quote. Albertans want public health care, not Trump health care. Albertans want surgeries in our hospitals, not bloated contracts for U.S.-style privatization. Trump's version of health care has people going bankrupt to get basic services. Why would the Premier find herself so aligned with Team Trump when it comes to health care, our most important service for Albertans?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the place that we are most aligned with our American counterparts is on energy dominance, on critical minerals, as well as on winning the AI data war. We know that if we have an environment here where we can invest in a clean, low-cost electricity that will allow us to be able to develop that new sector. We know as well that the Americans benefit from being able to have our heavy oil as a backfill to their needs so that they can keep prices low for their consumers. That, Mr. Speaker, is where we have the most common cause with our American friends, and I'm looking forward to continuing to build those partnerships.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton, Glenora.
The Minister of Justice said he had faith in the Auditor General's process and would, quote, work with that independent office, a completely independent office, to provide all the necessary documentation and assist in their thorough examination in any way that he can. But the senior ADM of Alberta Health is telling employees that if the Auditor General reaches out to them as part of the corrupt care investigation, to lawyer up. So to the Minister of Justice, does this sound like transparency and full cooperation? Because to most Albertans, it sounds like a cover-up.
Honourable members, my apologies. A point of order was noted at 1:59 and again at 2 o'clock. The Honourable the Minister of Justice has the call.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Since day one, we have said, and I want to be absolutely clear, we will comply 100% and provide full cooperation to the independent Auditor General in his office and with his investigation. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that any investigation requires proper organization. A single point of entry to help facilitate the records, a single point of entry to help facilitate the interviews, Mr. Speaker. Document production and other materials that the AG requires are being handled at a single point of entry. That is the firm and the agency that has been retained, and it's the appropriate way to do things.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Glenora.
What Albertans want is the truth. And weeks after the corrupt care scandal broke, the Deputy Minister of Health was removed from his role and told to solely focus on being the CEO of Alberta Health Services. He let go a long-standing award-winning public servant, including the Chief Information Officer, and appointed the senior ADM for that job, the same official telling Alberta Health staff to lawyer up. Albertans are telling me that it looks like the UCP is actually proud of how much corruption the government is showing. So is the government proud of how overtly corrupt it looks to tell public servants to hide from the Auditor General?
The Honourable the Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, once again, that assertion is completely false. Nobody is subject to a gag order. Nobody has been subject to a gag order. The Alberta Health retained a law firm to facilitate the production of 13,000 documents so far and to coordinate interviews with the civil service, Mr. Speaker. Rose LLP was hired to do this because it is capable and competent in doing this. And in any event, Mr. Speaker, to avoid confusion, the Premier has asked, and I've directed justice officials to reach out to the Auditor General and make sure that the interviews and the records are being complied with.
Order is noted at 2:04. The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Glenora.
When the former infrastructure minister resigned, he said, quote, "In recent months, I have voiced concerns regarding the Government of Alberta's procurement practices across all departments. And later today, all MLAs will have a chance to vote yes or no on a true public inquiry. It's our chance to tell Albertans if we believe in transparency and accountability. The NDP does so far. The UCP members have tried to lawyer up and shut it down. So, who's ready to stop the games? Who's ready to stop the embarrassing talking points? Stand up, vote with your conscience, vote for an independent public inquiry."
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, when that honourable member was Minister of Health in this province, she instructed her staff to go into voice mode so that nothing would be recorded on paper, Mr. Speaker. This government believes in accountability. It believes in working with the independent offices. We'll continue to do that, Mr. Speaker. They can laugh all they want, but the fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, we're working with all of the independent investigations. We'll continue to do that, and proof positive has been demonstrated here. 13,000 documents have already been provided to the Auditor General. There's more to come.